Today we're going to be working on evaluating absolute values. A number's absolute value is its distance from 0 on a number line. Absolute value is always positive or 0 because distance cannot be negative. Here is a quick little picture describing what an absolute value is. So the symbols for absolute value are these two parallel lines, giving you space to put some number or some expression inside of there. So the symbols are these lines on either side. So the absolute value of some number. So down below it says the absolute value of the number 4. So what you do is you go to that number 4 on the number line just to visualize this and ask yourself, how far is this number from 0? Well, it's obviously 4 units away. The next example here is absolute value of -4. Well, if you go to this number -4, again, the question is just how far is it from 0? And again, it is 4 units away. So your answer should always be positive so long as there's no negatives on the outside of the absolute value. And I'll show you what that will look like in the future. But that is it. Basically, how far is a number away from 0 on the number line? So let's look at a couple examples here. The absolute value of -8. How far is the number -8 away from 0? It is 8 units. How far is the number 8 away from 0? It is 8 units. How far is the number... Oh, here's an expression that we will solve here. So if you just go through and do the absolute values first and then solve it from there. So -8, how far is -8 away from 0? The absolute value of -8 is 8. How far is 6 away from 0? That is 6 units. And then put the operation in between there. Again, 8 plus 16 is 14. Here is an expression, -8 plus 6 inside of the absolute value. So first do the inside. So you can think of absolute values as grouping symbols, like parentheses or brackets. So -8 plus 6, that gives us a -2. And keeping the symbols there because we haven't asked ourselves that question yet. That question of how far is this number away from 0. So now we're going to ask that question. How far is -2 away from 0? That is 2 units away. That's the answer to the absolute value of -8 plus 6. That's all that on that side. Let's go back to this side. We've got a couple more. 6 minus 10. What's the absolute value of 6 minus 10? Again, do the inside first. 6 minus 10 is a -4. And we haven't asked ourselves the question yet, so that is 4. There's a couple more examples underneath this page. I'm just going to show them for you, and you can try those on your own if you need. Very similar to the ones we've just done. Evaluating expressions. So here's where we need to do some substitution. So number 1 there, the absolute value of x minus 7 when x is equal to 4. So in the problem like this, just go to your expression here and substitute 4 in for x. So we have the absolute value of 4 minus 7. This gives us the absolute value of -3, which gives us the question, how far is -3 away from 0? We say 3 units. I'm going to skip number 2 for now and jump to number 3. Here's an example of a question you will see that might confuse you a little bit. Again, we're just going to substitute our value in to start. So when x equals -1, so let's go to our expression and plug that in. So we have this negative on the outside. Don't forget about that. So negative absolute value of 3 times 1 raised to the power of 2 plus 2. Now notice this 2 is with the x, so please don't take 3 times 1 squared. It's just that value of x that's being squared. So that's why I have 1 squared in its own set of parentheses there. Using the order of operations, we know that exponents come first, so let's take 1 squared first. We have negative absolute value of 3 times, well, 1 times 1 is 1, and then plus 2. After exponents, we have multiplication and division from left to right. So 3 times 1, absolute value of 3 plus 2. And then addition, subtraction from left to right. So 3 plus 2. So we have the negative absolute value of 5. So ignoring this negative on the outside for now, ignore until you've done the absolute value. So if there's a negative on the outside, worry about that at the very, very end. So ignoring it, what is the absolute value of 5? The answer to that is 5. The number 5 is 5 units away from 0. And then you tack the negative back on, because we want the opposite of the absolute value of 5, which gives us negative 5. So there it is. That's absolute value for you. I hope that's enough information. There were a couple more examples on the previous slide if you need some more examples. Otherwise, that's it, and good luck.